Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Ian Kamau.
Yeah.
Poet, I'm a hip hop artist, I'm a producer, I'm a human being. I'm all of those things.
After the cold season, stroll in the park and walk the long route for no.
I live in Toronto, I live in Esplanade. I've lived in Esplanade since I was like 4 years old, something like that. I've been doing music seriously for the last, I don't know, man. I started doing stuff when I was 14. More serious, my first record came out in 2003. Put another one out called the Pangea Project 2004. And I just put a record out called One Day Soon. There's a bunch of mixtapes that came before that. But yeah, One Day Soon came out last October.
Soaking in its rays, daydreaming, breathing in the sweet scent.
Independent. Yeah, everything's 100%. I'm self-managed. I'm self-produced. I, went through the whole process on my own. So yeah, 100% independent. I don't want to do all that shit now. You know what I mean? I'd love for someone else to like take some of that on, but you do what you gotta do.
Caught was so vague in what our mission is.
That Toronto is not the world, that the world is the world, and if they can not just get out of Toronto, but if they can find a way to have people hear what they're doing in the rest of the world. I just came back from a 3-month tour of East and South Africa. I did like 22 shows. I went to 4 different countries. Unless you're following me, people in Toronto don't really know that. It's not like I'm on television, I'm not on commercial radio or anything like that. But there's wherever you can find a market for what it is that you're doing, find that market. There's a huge world out there, and there are a lot of people that are interested in all sorts of stuff, no matter what kind of music or art or business you might want to start. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it. And otherwise, be independent. You have to prove your worth not only to your audience, but you also have to, prove your worth. If you are interested in the industry, to the industry, they're not really going to be interested in you until you have shown that you have a following. Anybody who's successful right now, certainly in hip hop, if you look at them, they were independent first, and they got to, the music industry or the commercial market, they got to that market after the fact. You know what I mean? So in whatever way, you have to prove your worth to somebody. Sometimes that's just yourself first, and then after that, to either prove it to an audience or prove it to an industry. Independent means that you direct your own career. It means that essentially you make the decisions about either you doing everything on your own, which I wouldn't suggest, or you lead your team of people, or you figure out what partnerships you need to make in order to move forward. But you're not simply following what somebody else is doing. You're making your own decisions, essentially. And I think, beyond independence, I believe in self-determination. That's really the umbrella that independence comes under. And self-determination means that literally you determine your path forward yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't work with people. It just means that the relationship you have with those people are based on partnerships. They're not based on you, just following what someone else says. And there's also a power relationship that happens when you're independent and you build partnerships with people, as opposed to just being like, oh well, my record company told me I need to make this kind of song. This hits the radio this way. And now your credibility disappears because they don't really understand who your audience is. You can go to iankamau.com, IANKAMAU.com. My Twitter's the same thing, Ian Kamau. My Bandcamp is the same thing, Ian Kamau. My SoundCloud is the same thing, Ian Kamau. My Facebook is the same thing, except it's Ian Kamau 79. But the Twitter and if you go to iankamau.com, the Twitter, the Bandcamp, the Facebook, everything is on there. The Instagram should be on there soon. All of that is Ian Kamau, IANKAMAU.
They are fighting to win the best of me. Grew up an only child, I struggle with entitlement. So I admit I'm a product of my environment. Except that in the dead of winter you will let it snow.